She was 10 years old, illiterate, and smelled like sheep. And what she claimed to have seen in a field in Portugal shook the entire Catholic world for the next 100 years. This is a true story of Lucia dos Santos, the last living witness of the Fatima apparitions, and why her death left a void that nothing has been able to fill since. February 2005. A 97-year-old nun closes her eyes for the last time in Coimbra, Portugal. The Catholic world does not shake because an old woman died. It shakes because the last person who claimed to have stood before the Virgin Mary heard her voice and seen things no human was ever supposed to see, was finally gone. And she took something with her that no book, no recording, and no document can replace. A living testimony. Lucia was not a mystic raised in luxury. She was not educated in a famous monastery. She was the daughter of poor farmers. She barely knew how to write her own name at 10 years old. And according to the account, she would offend without a single contradiction for the next 88 years. That was exactly the point. Heaven does not choose the powerful. It chooses the available. May 1917. Europe is being torn apart by the First World War. In a small hollow of land in Portugal called the Cova da Iria, 3 children are watching over a flock of sheep. Lucia is the oldest at 10. Her cousin Francisco is 9. His little sister Jacinta is only 7. Nothing about that morning suggested anything unusual. There were rocks, silence, and the heavy heat of a Portuguese spring. And then, according to their account, the air changed. No trumpets, no choirs, just light, a light that did not hurt their eyes, but passed through them, and inside the light, a presence, a woman dressed in white. They said, brighter than the sun and more gentle than any mother they had ever known. The very first words they reported hearing were simple: "Do not be afraid." Lucia listened, and according to everything she would say and write for the rest of her life, she was never the same again. The apparitions, as the children described them, repeated every month on the 13th day. Each time, the lady shared words that carried real weight. She spoke of conversion. She spoke of penance. She warned of a world heading toward disaster. According to their account, she showed them a vision of a place of spiritual punishment, not as a metaphor, but as a warning about the consequences of turning away from God. Jacinta cried for days afterward. Francisco went quiet. Lucia tried to pray, but the images stayed with her, and the whole village called all 3 of them liars. The local priest was skeptical. The anti-clerical authorities arrested the children, locked them in a cell, threatened them, and questioned them for hours, trying to force them to admit it was all made up. These children were 10, 9, and 7 years old. They did not break. Lucia's own father called her an imposter. Her mother struck her across the face and demanded she confess the lie. There was no comfort at home and no support from anyone around them. Just 3 small children holding on to a truth the world refused to accept. But they had seen, or believed completely that they had seen. And someone who truly sees cannot pretend otherwise. October 13, 1917. 70,000 people gather at the Cova da Iria. It has been pouring rain all morning. The ground is thick mud. The skeptics came to laugh. The journalists came to expose a fraud. And then something happened in the sky above that field that no one present was ready for. A journalist named Avelino de Almeida, writing for a known anti-clerical newspaper in Portugal, described witnessing a spinning disc of dull silver throwing colored light in every direction before appearing to plunge toward a terrified crowd below. People screamed. Men and women who had come to mock the whole thing fell on their knees in the mud. Clothes that had been soaked through for hours dried almost instantly. This was not written by a believer trying to defend the faith. It was written by a journalist who had spent years mocking the Fatima claims, and he put it in his newspaper anyway, because he saw it with his own eyes. Lucia said she saw the lady for the last time that day. According to her testimony, she heard a request that, at the time, meant almost nothing to a 10-year-old Portuguese farm girl. She was asked for the consecration of Russia. The children did not even know where Russia was. A few weeks later, The Bolsheviks seized power and atheist communism began its march across the 20th century. The story could have ended there, but for Lucia, everything was only just beginning. Francisco fell ill in 1919 from the Spanish flu. He died at 11 years old, praying the rosary until his very last breath. Before he died, he told Lucia, "I am going to heaven. From there, I will pray for you very much." Jacinta followed him in 1920. She died alone in a Lisbon hospital, suffering through a serious illness without any family beside her. She offered everything she had left for the conversion of sinners. Before she died, she told those around her that the Virgin would come for her on a Friday. On Friday, February 20th, at 10:30 in the evening, she closed her eyes. Lucia was left alone with what she believed was a mission she had not asked for. She was 13 years old, carrying vision she could not forget and a responsibility she did not fully understand. Her parents wanted her to return to normal life. Neighbors stared at her in the street. Strangers traveled from across Portugal just to look at her. How does someone go back to normal after claiming to have seen what she claimed to have seen? In June 1921, the Bishop of Leiria made a decision. Lucia needed to disappear, not as punishment, but for her own protection. He sent her to a school in Porto, nearly 200 kilometers from Fatima. She left one morning without saying goodbye. She changed her name. She told no one at the school who she really was. For years, no one in Porto knew that the quiet young woman sweeping the hallways and praying alone in the chapel corner was a girl from Fatima. She was hiding in plain sight, carrying the weight of something the world was not ready for. In December 1925, living in a convent in Spain, she reported another apparition. According to her account, the lady showed her own heart surrounded by thorns, representing the sins of humanity, and asked for a devotion of reparation on the first Saturdays of 5 consecutive months. Lucia obeyed. She wrote to her superiors and reported everything to her confessor. No one believed her immediately. She insisted anyway. She had learned in a field in Portugal how to hold on to what she knew without anyone's permission. In 1929, in a chapel in Taiz, Spain, she reported the most significant vision she had experienced since Fatima. It was late at night. She was in prayer before the Blessed Sacrament when, according to her account, the chapel filled with a supernatural light. She described a representation of the Holy Trinity, and she reported hearing a voice saying that the moment had come for the Holy Father to consecrate Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, in union with all the bishops of the world. She wrote it down. She sent letters that took months to be read and years to be taken seriously. And on September 1st, 1939, Hitler invaded Poland. The Second World War had begun. If these stories about faith and the lives of the saints are speaking to you, subscribe to this channel right now. These are not just history lessons. These are lives that walked through the impossible and came back to tell us that none of this is random. In 1948, at 41 years old, Lucia entered the Carmelite monastery of St. Teresa in Coimbra. Strict enclosure. She never left those walls again. The world outside changed completely. The Cold War, the space race, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the rise of the internet, and she stayed in the same place, praying the same rosary, year after year, as if the only thing that truly mattered had already been said in a field in 1917. Her one connection to the outside world was letters. She wrote to popes. Pius XII consulted her. John XCI read her writings. Paul VI asked for her prayers. But it was with John Paul II that she formed the deepest bond. May 13, 1981. In St. Peter's Square in Rome, a gunman fires at the Pope. The bullet passes through his abdomen and misses his main artery by millimeters. John Paul II survives. The date is May 13th, the exact anniversary of the first apparition at Fatima. The Pope himself said later that a maternal hand had guided the bullet away from its fatal path. He had the bullet set into the crown of the statue of Our Lady of Fatima. In 1982, he traveled to Fatima to give thanks. In the year 2000, at the beatification of Francisco and Jacinta, he met personally with Sister Lucia for the last time. It was brief and private. No record exists of exactly what they said, but witnesses describe John Paul II treating her with the reverence of a man in the presence of a living prophet. And Lucia treated the Pope with the simplicity of a woman who had never stopped being a farmer's daughter at heart. What became known as the Third Secret of Fatima remained sealed for decades. According to Lucia, the lady had asked for it to be revealed in 1960. That year came and went without a word from the Vatican. Speculation spread everywhere. People talked of wars, church divisions, catastrophic prophecies, each theory more alarming than the last. Lucia said nothing publicly. She obeyed the silence and trusted God's timing. On June 26, 2000, the Vatican finally revealed the third secret. Many people were surprised by what it contained. There were no world-ending prophecies. There was symbolic vision of a bishop dressed in white, appearing to be the Pope, walking among the bodies of people who had given their lives for their faith. Many felt disappointed, expecting something more dramatic. According to the Vatican's interpretation, confirmed by Lucia herself, the vision referred to the assassination attempt on John Paul II and to the persecution the Church suffered throughout the 20th century. The bishop in white was John Paul II. The prophecy within that interpretation had been fulfilled. Some still doubted. Lucia held firm. She was 93 years old with the same unshakable determination she had shown at 10. Her final years passed in near total silence. Her health declined slowly. Her memory began to fade on recent things. But whenever the subject of 1917 came up, she remained completely clear. She prayed the rosary every day. She wrote letters with an increasingly shaking hand. She kept obeying the daily rhythm of Carmelite life. Prayer, work, silence. Francisco and Jacinta had been beatified in 2000. Lucia watched the ceremony on a small television in the convent. She watched the Pope declare them blessed. Those two cousins who had once played beside her on the hillsides of Aljustrel. What does that feel like, watching your childhood friends become saints while you stay behind? Growing older, feeling your body slowly let go. She never complained in public, but in private letters, the loneliness was real. In one letter to a trusted friend, she wrote, "I am the last. They have all gone. I remain. For what? Only God knows. Perhaps for exactly this reason." A testimony built in 11 years, like Francisco's, carries weight. But a testimony built across 88 years of faithfulness, saying the same thing day after day, decade after decade, without contradiction, without spectacle, without ever asking for attention, that is something else entirely. Lucia never gave interviews to secular media. She never wrote books for profit. She never built a movement with her name on it. She just prayed and waited. She waited for the world to listen. She waited for sinners to turn back. She waited for souls to be saved from the place she claimed to have seen in that vision as a child. February 13th, 2005, a Sunday afternoon. Coimbra is quiet. The sisters follow their usual evening routine. But in Lucia's room, something is shifting. Her breathing becomes uneven. The body that carried almost a century of life finally lets go. No dramatic final vision. No recorded last words of great significance. Just a very old, very tired woman finally go to rest. At around 5:25 in the afternoon, Lucia dies. The news spreads within minutes. Radio stations break their programming. Television networks interrupt broadcasts. Newspapers around the world prepare special editions. Pope Benedict XVI, elected less than 3 months earlier, sends a message of condolences, saying he unites himself in prayer with all those asking for the soul of this humble and faithful servant of God. But the most powerful thing that happens that day takes place far from any camera. It happens in the hearts of millions of ordinary people who, hearing of Lucia's death, feel a door closing. Because there's a difference between reading about an event in a book and knowing that somewhere in the world, a real living person was there, who saw what happened, who could look you in the eye and say, I was there. It happened. And now that person is gone. Lucia's body was laid out in Coimbra for 2 days. Lines of people stretched for kilometers. They came from all over Portugal, from Spain, from countries far away. Some wept. Others prayed the rosary without stopping. Many just wanted to see, one last time, the face of the woman who said she had spoken with Mary. Her funeral took place at the Basilica of Our Lady of the Rosary in Fatima on February 18th. 50,000 people attended, among them cardinals, bishops, the president of Portugal, but also farmers, workers, and ordinary people who saw themselves in that poor girl once chosen by heaven. She was buried in the basilica beside the tombs of Francisco and Jacinta. The 3 shepherd children were finally together again. Francisco's promise had been kept. Lucia, I am going to heaven. From there, I will pray for you very much. Now they could pray together. Her beatification process opened in 2008. It moved slowly, as these things do in the church. The reported miracles attributed to her intercession are being examined. The quality of her character and her writings are being reviewed carefully. So far, nothing has been found to challenge her holiness. In 2017, on the 100th anniversary of the apparitions, Pope Francis canonized Francisco and Jacinta. They are the youngest non-martyred saints in church history, having died at 11 and 10 years old. Lucia still awaits. But waiting does not make her story smaller. It shows that true holiness is not measured by dramatic visions. It is measured by how faithful you remain when no one is watching. What remains of Lucia's life? The certainty that God does not choose based on human standards. He does not look for the eloquent, the powerful, or the educated. He looks for those who are willing. A 10-year-old illiterate girl who smelled of sheep became the keeper of a message that, according to believers, touched the course of the entire 20th century. What also remains is a lesson in quiet faithfulness. Lucia could have used her fame. She could have written books, traveled the world giving talks, built foundations with her name on them. She chose the monastery. She chose to disappear. She chose to pray for a world that did not even know she was praying for it. And what she repeated without ever stopping for 88 years was not complicated. Pray the rosary. Do penance. Return to God before it is too late. No magic formulas. No easy promises. Just the old, simple path of prayer, sacrifice, and trust in the God who does not abandon anyone who sincerely seeks him. She claimed to have seen hell in a vision. She saw what awaits those who turn away from God until the very end. And she spent the rest of her 97 years trying to keep other souls from that same fate, not with beautiful speeches, but with knees worn out from kneeling in prayer. Her 6 memoirs, written between 1935 and 1941, contain detailed accounts of everything she witnessed. Her letters to popes and bishops, carefully preserved, show a soul of complete clarity with no desire for attention or recognition. From the age of 10 to the age of 97, she never changed her story, never added dramatic details, never contradicted herself. She left the most powerful kind of testimony there is, the kind earned through time, solitude, and faithfulness carried all the way to the end. The last witness left in 2005, but the testimony remains, and we, who were not there, are asked to consider what she left behind, not because it is comfortable, not because it is simple, but because a poor girl who became a hidden nun lived nearly an entire century, saying the same thing without ever wavering once. The message was delivered. The messenger is gone. What we do with the warning is entirely up to us. Now I want to hear from you. Of everything in Lucia's story, what moved you the most? Was it the vision the children described? The miracle witnessed by 70,000 people? Her decades of silent faithfulness? Or something else? Leave your answer in the comments. Every response helps this story reach someone else who needs to hear it.